Good evening and welcome to. Hold on, I apologize. I have to restart the show. There's been a flag on the intro. All right. Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with my. I apologize. There's been another flag on the intro. Third time. Hold on just a minute here. Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, is there a flag on the play?
You are so lucky that I was like tweeting out the get in here while you're pulling that bit on me. So I didn't interrupt you on that. But it wasn't good. It wasn't a great
This is the
night for
dumbest
the
football game I've seen.
I just tweeted out that my thing was tweeting out was like, help us. Come in here to the chat and help us figure out this game. Like, Greg, I've done a lot of post-game shows to this point, and this was one of the weirder football primetime games I've seen in a long time. Very Billsy. And if you want to let the people know why they're here to watch us figure this one out.
Yeah, you were here because Carl Cheffers and his staff put on an amazing performance tonight, during which the Buffalo Bills technically beat the New York Jets 23-20. But the stars of the show were Carl Cheffers and his officiating staff, who laid out 22 penalties, 26 actually penalties called, 22 accepted penalties for 204 penalty yards, the most in any game this season. But during that spectacular performance by Carl Cheffers and his crew, the Buffalo Bills did technically win a football game 23-20. There was a Hail Mary. There was a double doink by the other team, including a wide right miss by our kicker and a duck hook shank missed extra point by Tyler Bass that was missed so badly. I think he missed it into like just a regular defender's hand who wasn't even really trying to block the kick, just had his hands up, on its way to missing just ridiculously badly. He hit the defender's hand on the way over there to probably like the hash mark. It wasn't going towards a upright, certainly. There's so many dumb things in this game today. We had a fight when the lights went out. I mentioned the Hail Mary that we refused to knock down.
A tuck rule fumble that we couldn't review because it was more use of the replay, the New York replay in real time that I've seen in quite a while in a game, where they used it to overturn some calls, used it to kind of speed the game up, which I don't mind, but it seemed like they were calling in on this crew a little more often than I'm used to seeing.
Yes. Which in the grand scheme of things, we want that. Even Aikman and Buck were like making fun of them. They said, yeah, I think they're waiting for New York to tell them who jumped off sides here, who was there. Yeah, Pat saying the best, worst game ever. This is a game where I will say, I don't envy our friends who covered the Jets who are talking about this game, because whoever lost this game, there are so many infuriating things. I'm actually really happy that this game got won on a legitimately good scoring drive and then an amazing play by Taron Johnson. It wasn't like, although there was a lot of ugly and sloppy, and we probably did more bad than good. Both teams did more bad than good in this game. I at least can appreciate that Taron Johnson made an insanely awesome play at the end of that game. Taylor Rapp made a bunch of really nice plays. Like, there were some genuinely good things that they won that game. Like, they made plays to win the game, and they didn't back into something that was really stupid, even though there was a ton of stupid in the middle.
Yeah, and I do think the scoreboard of this game is very deceiving, right? The Hail Mary is a tough one. Like, they legitimately got the score. And I'm sure that'll be dissected both on this show and everywhere throughout the week here. But then you also, the missed kicks and stuff, like, we always do the what if, like, well, if they hit this game, they hit this, they don't get that play, how's this game look? To me, as this game was wrapping up, the weird feeling of this game and thinking about like, how are we going to go out and talk about this? The only thing I kept thinking is the way the Bills started the game before it started to get kind of weird. And some of it was probably their own decision making and lack of execution at times, but some of it was the officiating in this game, putting them behind the sticks and really slowing down some offensive drives with questionable stuff or them not getting calls. And to me, though, it felt like this game should have been like a 30-17 type of game with the way the Bills started out and the way they were playing. And the defense did take over for a stretch of time. And it seemed like the only thing New York was able to do was get a few chunks here and there, but they were getting kind of stalled out. But then you have the missed kicks from New York that you got to add into that as well. But to me, it did feel like the final score was not actually indicative of the game. Like you said, I think there was plenty bad on both sides. And I am glad this turned into a win for the Bills because in that third quarter, when you and I are texting back and forth, not feeling great about the game, I'm thinking about how we're going to have to talk about like how there's real foundational problems with dropping a game here. Now you're not leading the division. You dropped 3 in a row. Instead, the Bills are able to actually breathe a little bit after this and regroup and catch their breath. And you didn't do it pretty. And there's not a lot of confidence exuding from the fan base after a win like that. But it doesn't always matter how you get them. It just matters that you get them. Kansas City hasn't gotten all pretty wins, but they've stacked enough wins to give themselves a cushion. And this is all the Bills needed to do was get a win, keep an arm's length at the division. Because I think you can have some bumps in the road here early on if we can keep a game and a half on teams behind us. Because I think the schedule will get easier for the Bills. They will get healthier. They'll find a groove.
Yeah, I think that reference to the Chiefs and some of the ugly wins they've gotten is a really good reference. Ultimately, they're 4-2. And honestly, if you look at the AFC standings, they kind of look how you would expect. The division leaders are Buffalo, Baltimore, Houston, and Kansas City.
Yeah.
The last place teams are the Patriots, the Browns, the Jags and Titans, and the Raiders. Like, everything kind of looks the way it's supposed to, more so than what it felt like early on. And again, this game, we'll go through a lot of the different pieces, but there was a lot of stupid here. There was, I'm going to do one more little bit on the refs, and then I'm going to try to drop it because I don't want that to override talking about the actual game itself here.
They did it to themselves, by the way.
The teams were sloppy. There were some pre-snap penalties that were dumb, some alignment stuff that eliminated a couple big plays. Those things are dumb. That honestly, if you want to get on the coaches a little bit for that, I'm here for that. The stuff that they were calling for unnecessary roughness, the roughing the passer on Epinesa that extended the play, Spencer Brown literally just finishing a block that got called for unnecessary roughness. I never saw what Deion Dawkins actually did. Like I didn't see anything that wasn't him and Quinn and Williams equally jawing back and forth, and I didn't see any pushing or shoving or punches thrown or anything. So like the incredibly sensitive threshold of what was unnecessary roughness was the lowest. And I hate when fans throw around like terms like soft and things like that. It was the softest I had ever seen a game called. Like if you have somebody's uncle in North Tonawanda and my uncle down in Jamestown talking about this game, this was a soft game. Like the referees called some really, really soft plays that were not unnecessary of roughness. They were not egregious. They were completely normal football plays, and they were in really impactful spots. Like you extend the roughing the passer was on a third down and they score on that drive. Like that was just an incredibly impactful play. So there was plenty of sloppy, both of the teams. And I will say there was some crappy stuff for the Bills against the Jets too. Like the roughing the passer on Josh was a terrible call. I would have been livid with that too. There was, the Bills fans, of course, we noticed all the ones that went against us. There were a couple that went against them that were some pretty ticky-tack ones. So some holding calls that were pretty bad. And
the fumble felt egregious to me, but maybe I don't know it wasn't a fumble. It was an incomplete pass.
Yeah, correct. For sure, the tuck rule. Like that was the definition of him holding the ball
and it just
trying not to pass it. And then he even came on later and said, when it goes vertical, which is, hey, it's not going forward, it now is tipped vertical. Yeah. He was holding it like a can of beer. That is the definition of it, and that's what it was. He was still gripping it. He was trying to pull it back, and then it went straight down. It's the definition of the tuck rule. And not only could they not go back and look at it, no. We already did a review and confirmed that wasn't it. When Troy Aikman, the announcer in the booth, and John Perry, who we hired, were all saying, no, that's the...
You could see
all the elements. You saw John Perry.
You saw Perry in the...
That's what I mean.
In
the booth.
What the heck? Yeah, no, it's... tough, inconsistent night. I do wonder if some of the way the refs were calling this game was from the league. We know these two teams are chippy. We know they got into it in tunnels. We know Deion Dawkins. I'm sure the league monitors what people are saying. We know Deion Dawkins talking about how much he hates the Jets and the stuff they do. I wonder if the league stepped in and kind of wanted this game called tight. We saw a lot of personal fouls. And to your point, they didn't seem... Even Clemens, I don't know what Clemens said to Kinlaw said to the official on that last one, but it looked like he just walked by. I'm sure he said something not great. If the mics are ever on when they're close to football players, I never hear good things coming out of football players' mouths on the field.
Lot of naughty words.
Words. I mean, it just felt like maybe they were trying to keep it tighter, and we saw a lot of skirmishes. We saw a lot of stuff extra after, and so maybe that played into some of the softness that we saw being called, that like they didn't want anyone getting like they could just tee off on some of these quarterbacks. Although Rodgers, even with as tight as they were calling some of that stuff, the Bills were still teeing off on Rodgers and getting some hits in on him. So maybe they just wanted to protect it from getting out of hand in an atmosphere like that.
If you wanted to tell me that AJ Epenesa's like spearing Aaron Rodgers directly in the spine was more of a roughing the passer penalty than him
good.
Like falling on top of him, I would have supported that. Like he didn't. He was face mask up. He didn't lead with the crown of the helmet, and he hit him in the nameplate, not in the helmet. But like in real time, I was like, oh, they're going to flag that for sure. They had to be helmet to helmet contact, and good for them not doing that in the final, actual tally there. But all right,
I was shocked they did not flag Taylor Rapp on it was like a third down breakup where he shot out of a cannon.
Rucker, the one where he came up and hit again, super similar to the mechanics of the AJ Epinesa one.
Yeah.
He had face up, he hit with the shoulder into the body. The same thing, the hit on Garrett Wilson in the end zone was really clean. But you're right, like those were bang bang plays where, like, I kind of would have expected it to be able to do that.
Looking for a flag on every play tonight.
Correct.
Where is 100%. It? Just looking around.
Oh man! All right. So obviously we have shared plenty of what's going on here. Before I get to, there's lots of positive. One of the things I want to bring up here is one of the guys who deserves some of those kudos. Ray Davis showed up to the podium with just a killer cowboy hat on. Good for him. Looking just resplendent here in the game. And although I will get to Mr. Allen, who played exceptional tonight, Ray Davis, coming in, filling in for James Cook with a late scratch, although he probably knew Cook was unlikely to play and was preparing to start for a while here. But a lot of reports were that Cook was going to try to play. Davis gets 20 carries for 97 yards, 3 catches for 55, a total of 23 touches for 152 yards in his first, extended playing time of his NFL career. Some really hard, tough runs. I'm excited to see his broken tackle numbers because he forced some significant missed tackles. This was just a really, really outstanding game to see Ty Johnson look good in his touches. He had the opening carry of the game he took for 13 yards and ended up with 4 for 34. Josh obviously ran the ball for some really important ones and ended up 19 to 25 for 215 yards, 8.6 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns passing, another rushing, 127 passer rating. He had a completion percentage of 76%. And Josh played a really clean game. He had 1 or 2 misses. I think he had Curtis Samuel for a possible touchdown. He ended up scoring later on that drive. Anyways, he missed Samuel on the one.
Oh, Samuel could have got that.
Correct. And
it was barely a miss.
Somebody in the comments here earlier asked like what Josh Allen did to Troy Aikman to make him hate him. Aikman was really critical of Josh tonight and not critical of Rodgers.
Jealous.
Like I think Aikman sometimes is just overly critical, but like he wasn't nitpicking Rodgers and he was nitpicking Allen. So yeah, here Joel brought it up. What did Allen do to Aikman to cause such hate? He was fine. He also threw some flowers to him too, but had some weirdly critical ones. But those guys in the run game and Josh Allen really look good tonight.
Yeah, I think Josh Allen I think played out of scheme, helping the numbers look good. I still have a lot of concerns and beef with Joe Brady and the way the offense looked for stretches of this game. Not super happy. I want to go back and look at some of that stuff. But in terms of the run game, I loved what Joe Brady scripted up to start this game. And when we talk about some of the drives and stuff like that, getting it to Ray Davis, we saw everything that we saw from Ray Davis when Eric and Anthony was breaking that down. And in his college career, the contact balance, the ability to play physical, both in the run and pass game. We saw it on full display tonight. I love Ty Johnson too. I was hoping to get a little more Ty Johnson revenge game in here a little bit tonight, but still productive.
But Davis is running so hard. I don't fault them for going with the hot hand. I don't think the plan was 20 for Davis and 4 for Johnson. I think it just, once they saw how Davis is running, they just leaned into it.
Yeah, I think they probably should have dialed back passing a little bit in this game. They like tried to get into it and it just wasn't. It was the passing day, while it looks pretty efficient for Josh, it was a lot of Josh extending plays and hitting things on extended plays, not guys getting open naturally within the flow of the play. So that's,
if he doesn't hit those 2 Ray Davis and Curtis Samuel deep balls, the numbers look much less exciting and pretty.
Yes. And they heated up a little bit with it later when we go through the drives. We'll talk about it. They got Coleman going a little bit on a drive and Kincaid, and it's just not consistent enough. But the run game was very consistent tonight, and I wanted to see even more leaning into it. And I think there was more meat on the bone for both those backs. But great to see Davis in the backup role there, being able to come in and carry the load. That's huge for the Bills and James Cook and the development of that position here behind him. And I'm hoping that is Ray Davis going forward, backing up James Cook. I think that's a nice 1-2 combo. The way he runs in that style is exactly, I think, what the Bills offense needs.
Yeah, I actually saw a couple fantasy people making comments on the timeline about like, hey, I don't think Ray Davis is going away when James Cook comes back. And I don't think I disagree. I think that's something I agree with as well.
Yep.
The one thing in the receiving game, I don't think there was anything all that spectacular. Really nice catch by Ray Davis on the deep ball. But ultimately, I think one of the things that stood out to me was not a lot of drops. A little more efficient on the game tonight. One, I think Dawson Knox had one that was ended up called back on a penalty against the Jets, so it didn't end up counting in the
there's like a fastball down the sideline.
Yeah, it was a tough catch, but that one was, got both hands on it. Otherwise, it was pretty efficient. Kincaid caught 6 out of 7 for 51 yards.
Would like grab, but
crazy fastball into Hollins to be able to get your hands on that.
Yeah.
Hollins and Knox each had 1 catch each, but they were touchdowns. Shakir caught his 2 balls, obviously a limited
version of him. Yeah,
limited snap count for Shakir tonight, but they played him in the high leverage situations when they really needed a third down pickup. So I respect the usage.
Hollins also drew multiple. I knew he got 1 explosive DPI, a 23-yard pass interference. Didn't he get another one? Didn't he draw 2 pass interference tonight? Hollins. I know he got the one big one.
Yeah, I'm not 100%. Okay. But it certainly could have been. It certainly could have been.
They need a stat for that, for guys that draw big explosive DPIs.
Yeah, it certainly it's impactful when it happens. It certainly makes a big difference on it. And I thought that I'm torn because I think the offensive line had some of the sloppiness in the pre-snap penalties and some of the alignment things, but I think overall, for an aggressive, talented defense, they did a really nice job. Both of the sacks were those ticky-tack type of plays. Neither of them were sacks. Both of Josh's sacks were on plays he was like scrambling and got tackled
for a loss
while he was scrambling. And one of them might have been technically on the forced fumble. Maybe they counted that as the sack.
Sure.
Which, thank God, Osiris Torrance fell on that. But it was, I think a solid game, and they obviously look fantastic in the run game. I think that part was exceptional.
They're displacing people in the run game. That's why I wanted to see more of it, man. I really do. I think right now, as it's pains me to say because I don't want to take the ball out of Josh Allen's hands. He's so special, but I think the offense right now, with the lack of people being able to step up and get open in the receiving game, it's really got to flow through this run game because they are displacing. But in the pass game, the offensive line, I think, did a nice job. When Joshua was extending plays, it was within a clean pocket and stepping up within holes within a clean pocket. And they just definitely got some pressures. But on the other side, the Bills were like really hitting Rodgers. And that, I think, wore down as the game wore on, where Josh wasn't really taking those hits. He was able to step up into clean pockets and extend on his own, not crazy amounts of pressure, where we saw, like I said, a lot of the passing success and efficiency actually came outside of script and outside of the play of Josh making plays, but it wasn't due to just like the offensive line giving up pressures and he had to run for his life. It wasn't what we saw against the Ravens and the Texans where he's running for his life. Easy extending plays with his eyes downfield, looking for something. That's the comfortable Josh Allen I want to see rolling out, not the one that's being chased by Algier, to the sidelines with nobody open.
Yeah, and as we switch over to the defense, we kind of talked pre-show, holding the Jets to 20 points, where 7 of it was on a crazy, stupid Hail Mary. Yeah. At the end, I think you would expect to be, oh, they did a great job. I don't know that this is one of our better games. They had 2, established drives that ended in doinked missed field goals. The interception at the end was an awesome play, but they were moving the ball again in that play. I didn't feel super confident that we were going to hold them from scoring. So I think that you had a tweet at one point about maybe we're taking the bend but don't break a little too far in how much we're testing the limits of it. So I mentioned Taylor Rapp earlier. He made 3 huge pass breakups in that game and some big tackles. Taron Johnson, thank God he's back. Awesome interception that he made, plus another pass breakup.
A couple nice run stops by
Terrell Bernard with his forced fumble and making big plays. Huge tackle for a loss when now having him back and looking healthier. AJ Epinesa.
Also, Bernard had the what should have been the fumble sack on Rodgers that was reviewed instantly or whatever. That was Bernard, right? He got knocked down, got back up, and then made the play.
Yes,
on that play as well. Although taken off the board, still great play, impactful play.
Yeah, another really strong play there. Maybe uncharacteristically, the first game where Christian Benford wasn't exceptional. I don't know that he was bad, but he got beat a couple times, which he had literally all season long. He had been exceptional all season long. And tonight, again, Garrett Wilson's awesome. And Aaron Rodgers is still a historically great quarterback, and he's going to make some awesome throws. So Benford wasn't as exceptional as he had been.
My issue for Benford tonight was so uncharacteristic for him is he's such a good run defender. And the
couple weird...
some bad angles, some bad tackling attempts. Really, I think that was mostly across the board on defense a little bit. Like they were getting at guys, getting hits, but the tackling again 3 weeks in a row wasn't the best. They ended up doing it when they needed to, but for Benford, that was what really stood out to me. Caught flat-footed a couple times and just some weak arm tackle attempts, which isn't like him.
Some of the they were certainly testing Taron and the safeties in stretching run plays to the outside, trying to see who would come up and make plays.
Yeah.
I know.
I loved it when they did that, though. I mean, they balanced that one, but the Bills got some nice tackles for loss in some of those.
Yeah, they were able to make some good plays, but ultimately, a player who had been held in check all season long. Breece Hall ended up with 18 carries for 113 yards. Even if you take the 42-yarder out of there, still had another 71 on top of that. By far his best game of the season. I know, it'll be interesting to go back and see some of the things in real time that people notice with angles for Dorian Williams, for DeMar Hamlin, for Benford, his usual play. I don't know how much of that was on the defensive ends, keep and contain. Some of that stuff's really hard to see in real time with the angles that are there.
I think some guys got washed
in all 22
on some of the bigger runs. But it's so uncharacteristic of this Bills defense, even as in the moments where they've played poorly. I counted, 8 explosive plays, and these weren't like some of the weird explosives. It was just Wilson for a 25-yard, Hall 5 times for 23, 24, had a 42. Like, it was just consistently chunk plays from Wilson and Hall. And then obviously the Hail Mary from Lazard and another big one from Lazard. But they were able to create some of those chunk plays that just really don't show up against the Bills all that much. You know, they give up the 13, 14-yard annoying plays, which we saw the Ravens do consistently to them. And that's annoying, move ball down the field. But these big explosives, just uncharacteristic for him to give up so much.
One more play that I didn't even mention with the pass breakups. In a game that ends 23 to 20, Taylor Rapp makes a 4-point tackle on that breakaway Breece Hall run. You know, Breece Hall's breaking down the sideline. Almost everyone expected him to be able, in full speed, to cut back against the grain and just outrun Taylor Rapp to the end zone. Taylor Rapp takes a really good angle, you know, really positions, uses the sideline as an extra defender and gets him tackled. And we end up holding them to a field goal on that spot. That's a 4-point play and we win 23-20. So that ends up being a really huge play. I want to bring up a thing in the post-game presser here. Aaron Rodgers saying about the referees, it seemed a little ridiculous. Some of them seemed really bad, including the roughing the passer on me. That's not roughing the passer. So credit to Aaron Rodgers for pointing that out. And, you know, they had plenty of stuff to complain about on their side too, but for him even bringing that up, not trying to make it one-sided.
Real time.
They were bad.
Real time on the broadcast, you could see him talking to AJ Epinesa, and he was just like shaking his head like, that's not the call. And he looked over at AJ and he was like, that's a bad call. Like, I'm sorry that you got that, because it was a great play. And I think at this point in his career, Aaron Rodgers, for all the things I don't like about him, I think he is a student of the game. I think he appreciates the game in the same way we hear Vaughn talk about the game and what matters. And I think that it matters to him when a young player like AJ Epinesa, even though it's on the other side, makes a good play, to have it taken off like that. He knows the amount of hard work that goes into getting your chance to make a big game-changing play. And so kudos to him for being that type of professional. But yeah, everyone knew that was an egregious one.
It's wild. Wow.
Holy cow.
So again, on defense, I think that there's going to be more plays that we want back than what's there, but we talked pre-show that there probably were more positive plays than what we're recognizing here, and some of that frustration, that middle stretch where it was really sloppy. I was certainly not alone in flailing my frustration around just trying to find people to blame of why am I so angry watching this football game.
Feel great.
Oh, it was ugly. It was ugly.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some of the drives here and go through this game. And honestly, what we're talking about on defense started out right at the beginning. The Jets are moving their way down the field. 8 plays, 54 yards. It seems a little too easy. They're going to Lazard and Wilson back and forth. Hall breaks off a nice run back to Wilson. They get into a position, and then, you know, it was an incompletion that I think Hall kind of dropped, or Rodgers just had out in front of him a little bit, but it certainly looked catchable and should have kept that drive alive at what would have been probably a 1st and goal at the 10, maybe first down at the 12 or 11-ish. And they ended up having to settle for a field goal. And it was one of those drives where giving up a field goal felt like a win.
It was a win. Yeah, no, Hall gifted us getting off the field on that drive. The Bills didn't stop them. The Jets stopped themselves. But what I will say at this point in the game, like, I almost assume when the Bills kick the ball off, the first maybe 2 drives of the game are going to feel not great and painful, and teams are going to have something scripted, just go up and down. It almost is like the Bills kind of go soft a little bit in the beginning of the game and see how the other team wants to attack them, and then adjust from there instead of like coming out attacking. In some games we've seen for years, even back with Leslie Frazier, how many times did a team come out and move the ball down on the scripted stuff, and then 2 to 3 drives later, defense would adjust and not give up any more points until later in the game. So in this spot, even though it didn't feel great and the Jets offense is actually doing stuff, which I hadn't seen on film and prepping for them, I still felt like, all right, the defense just needs to settle in and adjust to this and we'll be fine.
So Eric asking here, can we quit the double dip fetish after this game? Football is messy. Pick your best first play when you win the coin flip. No, you can't make me, because you're not the boss of me.
Yeah, if the Bills actually, like, the Hail Marys thing is we're going to get so hung up on this for the game, and I get it. It really changed the way the flow of this game was going, but if that doesn't happen and the Bills successfully double dip, we're having a party. tonight. There's like zero. This is a 30-17 win, and we're just stomping on MetLife Stadium. It really made a huge difference, and there's problems within that play, but it doesn't take away the ability that a double dip can literally just give you an arm's length. It's a stiff arm built into the game where if you can accomplish it, it's so hard to come back from a double digit lead in the NFL. It just gives you that advantage. I don't know why we would ever get rid of it. No, Eric. Sorry.
I will. The only little tidbit I'll give you is I've actually read a couple studies that it doesn't matter at all. Like the number of possessions and the order in which you score. If you score first when you get the ball versus stopping a team late, or it's not always that the team that gets the ball after the half has the last possession at the end of the half. Sure. And so in the grand scheme of things, all the math showed that it doesn't actually matter. Who wins the coin toss doesn't matter nearly as much as what we think. We ascribe things like momentum from the first score and game script to those things, but just as often you have this where we're going to talk about, we go down, we get a hold on the Jets when they get the first possession, and then we come down with a 9-play 70-yard touchdown drive, and then all of a sudden it's, oh man, we're set up really well. And if it happens in the other way, it's all relative in how those things work, and not nearly as fun. But you can't make me stop rooting for a double dip.
Also, I would like to see the data on what games are won when they're actually converted, like when a double dip is converted. How often are those teams winning? Because you're still stealing a possession. Like, it might not work out in the aggregate that those stolen possessions lead to points or whatever. This might be a conversation for a whole different episode. But Eric, you're having us talking about double dip, so you did your job. But I'm not going to get rid of it. It's still, I think, too important.
The Bills, this one really set the tone where on these 9 plays, I believe it was 8 running plays and 1 pass, I believe, if that's correct. Yeah, it was 8 running 9 plays. The first 6 of which were runs, right? No, I take that back. The second Kincaid play, we had a nice pass to Kincaid.
With a bit of an Avery Young at the end.
Yes, put his shoulder down, looked really, really good. Then the following 7 were 7 straight run plays directly down their throat, just punching them in the mouth over and over and over again. And Josh Allen scored twice because he scored once. And this, again, if you want to give them a hard time, there was some sloppiness where this is a good example. And some people were confused because they called that the jumbo set was out there, but Spencer Brown was uncovered, and that, Alec Anderson was out beyond him. It's because he was off the ball like a wing. He was back a step and not covering. So the last guy in the line of scrimmage can't be an offensive lineman. You have to have a eligible player on each side of the line on the line of scrimmage. And Anderson was off the ball. That's what got it called back. It came up again later in the game. He did it twice. So we were at a real hot game tonight from a lineman standpoint, but Josh Allen scored on that play. They took it back. Then Ray Davis ran it for another 5 yards.
Back, and
then Josh Allen pushes it back in again because they were not going to be denied. So that was, a really good way to come out and set the tone. But again, the Jets come right back and drive straight down the field. Nice, short play to Breece Hall that he took for 21 yards.
Yeah.
And a couple more nice plays. Breece Hall broke another run for 24 yards. Just an annoying amount of chunk plays here that we hadn't really seen as much earlier in the toxic differential. Maybe the turnover kind of made up for it a little bit, but there certainly were multiple by the Jets here where they made, multiple big plays that really kept taking big chunks of yards.
Yeah, and it was just that 24-yarder for Hall, really, it just got him into the red zone. It just felt inevitable that they were going to punch it in at that point, just the way they were, to your point, getting some chunks. And they didn't call it the touchdown right away for Wilson, but what a grab in the back of the end zone. And that's not, I don't want to get into like the wide receiver, Bills really need something, but that to me feels like the kind of thing that the Bills don't have. Like, he makes that catch. Hollins doesn't make a similarly difficult catch in a similar spot in the red zone. Like, just having a guy that can do that type of thing that Stefon Diggs used to do for the Bills is such a weapon. Obviously not enough to put the Jets over the top, but it really came through in that tight space right there.
I'll guarantee you, if we end up, if God forbid, Bass misses another kick, and we'll get to Bass in a minute here. He hasn't even come up
yet. I don't want to talk about it.
If he missed another kick and they went down and kicked the game-winning field goal, or let's just say Greg Zuerlein didn't doink 2 kicks himself and they won this game, or that they came down to the end of the game and Taron Johnson didn't make a miraculous play and we're losing here, I guarantee one of the major talking points is on our critical 3rd and goal from the 7, we had to try to throw it to Mac Hollins on a slant. Yeah. Like, is that going to be okay come playoff time, that like your go-to gotta have it play is trying to force a slant to a guy who can't create separation and you hope he makes his second catch of the day? Yeah. That's a piece
I want to look at that play because I think Kincaid had a one-on-one too. You got to give him a shot.
Well, and you know that Shakir is not healthy, but just all those things combined makes it tough that like, hey, even though we won, we got to be happy. I still am not any less interested in an Amari Cooper or Cortland Sutton or hell, even a Devontae Adams or you know, Romeo Doubs. I still want another weapon. I still want another weapon.
Yeah.
You know, so they come back, they take the lead here, and I'm like, okay, well, if we come right back and answer back again, you know, we'll be okay. But unfortunately, we come back with the 3 and out. We have an incompletion early. Davis gets 4, and then try to go to Curtis Samuel on a crosser. I think that, you know, again, Aikman and Buck, you know, rightly call out, they're like, hey, you got to give him a chance to get ahead here, or be like making progress upfield. You can't just have a foot race straight across the field. You got to be moving up to be able to do that. And it, you know, we end up having to punt it back. TP was bringing up here, I got a ton of questions online about DK Metcalf. The way that the Seahawks set up his contract, they can't trade him. They literally can't.
Yeah.
It would bury them. It was like $34 million in dead cap space, and they can push a lot of it into next year, but it would be $15 million in additional cap hit this year, and they only have $12 million in cap space. So the Seahawks literally can't trade.
And they're tied for first.
On top of the fact that they don't want to. He's awesome. Yeah. Wanting him makes a lot of sense. So TP, I'm not calling you out there.
Yeah, no.
Wanting DK Metcalf makes a ton of sense. The Seahawks not only can't trade him financially,
they should not.
Why in the world would they trade him? He's really good and a centerpiece of their team. They just gave him a bunch of money. I get why the Broncos would trade away a player. I get why the Browns would trade away a player. Definitely. I get why the Raiders would trade away a player.
Cowboys, honestly.
Yeah. Jalen Tolbert? Can we get Jalen Tolbert? I'll take Jalen Tolbert.
On this drive, what frustrated me the most is that on that 1st and 10, where it was an incompletion, dude, Josh had all kinds of time in the world. So I noted that one to go back and watch because this feels like another one of these scenarios. And it just feels like it's a nobody getting open scenario down the field because there's a lot of time. And that just sets you back so far. Like, I know a lot of people hate this, the Bills running so much on 1st down, but with the way Ray Davis was running, if you're picking up 5 yards to start, the
first down runs were totally fun tonight.
They're working today. And this was that drive where it's like, why'd you get cute from what we know we can physically line up against the Jets and get 5-6 yards? Like that first drive, or that drive just before this one, I think they were averaging like 7.6 yards per carry. Like, I'm doing that until you stop it. But that is not what Brady did. And I think it set him kind of behind on this, because then you get a 4-yard run and then it's 3rd and 6. And they just don't have the beaters to be, I think it was man coverage. And Samuel just isn't the guy we maybe thought he was in terms of the speed to be able to beat in a crosser like that. You just don't have it.
DJ Reed's a stellar player. DJ Reed is an awesome player. Yeah, like he deservedly, he's actually a guy that's right there with Christian Benford in that a lot of fans don't realize how good this guy is playing because they're like Reed is because he has Sauce Gardner on the other side.
Yeah, that's hard to play with Sauce Gardner on the other side.
Yes, because you get actually, you know, pursued more because they don't want to go at Sauce. And Reed has played significantly better than Sauce Gardner this year.
Yep.
There you go, TP.
Actually,
Amari Cooper is my number 1 too. That's a good choice. Good choice.
Jets post game should be burying Sauce Gardner. He did not have a great night tonight.
Yes, but I honest to God, I don't remember him being a player on the field more than like
he got run over a couple times and missed plays. Yeah.
Yes, after a play, I'm like, oh, that was Sauce. I don't remember him making a play or being part of a play where I was like, oh man, we gotta be careful with Sauce. Like it was crazy. So again, you know, we punt it back to them. The Jets have a chance to really take a healthy lead here because now they have the lead and the ball. we get another one of the weird offsetting penalties where they thought they got a really big, deep pass interference penalty. It comes back on an illegal formation. Then we get like a stuffed run, and they convert with Garrett Wilson. And this is where we get the stretch where it really kind of saved us in that spot.
Yeah.
Taron Johnson comes up and makes
second quarter for
right there at the beginning. Taron comes up and makes a big tackle, and then this is the one where Bernard, they showed like him spotting it, and their Connor McGovern, the other Connor McGovern, was supposed to get to the second level to get to Bernard, and instead Bernard just immediately reads it and heads straight down the field and ends up hitting Breece Hall not only for the tackle but for a 5-yard loss, and that he comes and kind of clips his ankles and like clicks his heels together and gets him not only kind of initially I thought Hall was going to get through Bernard and only get back to the line of scrimmage, and he even makes a great open field tackle to get him down for a 5-yard loss.
Yeah.
And then they try to run a screen on 3rd and 14 and end up bungling that as well. And the Bills get it back. And this was a really big one where they immediately answer back with a 10-play, 90-yard touchdown drive. And, you know, I think there's a lot of this one and the next one. I think you can make a good call for which one is the Herr Drive of the game. But again, this one was a really, you know, important one because we needed to get back into it. This had the crazy Josh scramble play right at the beginning where they had to roll out to the right and he chucked it back across. And I think it was funny. They commented that Ray Davis didn't need to jump for that ball. He definitely made it harder on himself than he needed to be able to catch that ball. But he goes up, makes the catch, huge 42-yard chunk play. Then we get a nice run by Ty Johnson, back-to-back actually, a 13-yarder and a 7-yarder. And then, you know, kind of continue moving down the field and get a couple more plays as we go and end up getting to where we're able to try to punch it in. And this is the one for, I believe this is the Mac Hollins touchdown. Yeah, this is the Mac Hollins
third goal.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this one was also followed by the Tyler Bass just ridiculously horrible shank. I think Warren Sharp posted, like, is this the worst extra point attempt of all time? It's the one where Joe Buck commented, I've seen worse attempts on College Game Day, like when they do the money giveaway kicks where some people just shank it into the crowd. It was that bad. Like,
it was not good.
Ha 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 funny, like it make no, seriously, it was that bad. Like it was one of the worst extra point attempts I've ever seen.
It was so bad that when the Bills got a penalty late in the game when they were getting the field goal and the Bills actually moved the ball forward, that concerned me more for Tyler Bass that they were getting closer. Because it was like that was such a bad miss. I want to back up a little bit, maybe give him some space.
Give him some space or something.
I don't know what's going to work at this point, but I'm going to step in here because I'm going to slide in with a Herr Drive of the game here, starting here and continuing on. And I'll just the only reason I'm starting here is because this is exactly what Sean McDermott was hitting the hammer. Complementary football. This was you had just gotten a stop, you go down and score. But this one, the reason I absolutely love this stop is because you had multiple big plays on this one, right? You did give up an explosive play. Hall gets a catch for 23 yards on a 2nd and 10, but then you get a Daquan Jones. It was like a flea flicker play. He didn't bite it at all. He comes right through, hits Rodgers, 7-yard loss.
I was pretty proud of myself. I tweeted that we flicked Aaron Rodgers' flea.
We did flick his flea. They didn't bite it at all. It was not a great design play. It leads to a sack, but what the best play is on a 3rd and 15. AJ Epinesa comes up with a big sack to just kill that drive. That like the Bills. A lot of these drives in this game ended by mistakes by the Jets, right? An incomplete pass or something like that. The Bills closed the door on this drive, and I think that's huge. And you stole a little momentum, and I'll let you sort of take it from here with the rest of this drive because I think this is also the best offensive drive of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, this was probably the most balanced one that we had. They come back. First play is the pass to Ray Davis for 8 yards. Then Davis runs for 8 yards. That takes it to the 2-minute. Josh scrambles for 5, then passes short to Kincaid for 4 more. Then Josh runs again for 2 yards. That was on the QB sneak because we were right up there and converted. They hurry up. That's when they take the deep shot to Mac Hounds, which absolutely was pass interference. I know he was arguing a couple times on some of the pass interference that he got called for. Quick pass to Samuel, another pass to Kincaid, then get another pass interference here where they also had the too many men on the field. And this one was pointed out really well by Troy Aikman. Tony Adams had no choice. He had to interfere with Kincaid because he was beat on a wheel route. It was going to be a gimme touchdown. So he didn't have a choice.
Heads up football by the Bills to be ready to go.
Josh was looking over, watching it. Lecky Fotu not get off the field, knew he had the free play. And did that against Aaron Rodgers, who is admittedly the master of that. Like, he did that his entire career. Josh, knowing what was up, looking over, seeing, hey, we got him, and knew he could take a free shot play. And he had Kincaid. It was going to be a touchdown. So, honestly, heads up play by Tony Adams to grab him and give himself a chance to get away with it, to break it up, because interference is better than a touchdown. Then they run it with Davis again. Here is where they could have taken the air out of the sails and ruined it. Honestly, I was a little worried about Will McDonald in this game. We talked to Connor on Wednesday night. He's really had a breakout season. This technically counts as a sack for him, although it was Josh scrambling. I don't know if there was anything that McDonald was doing, but he did cause the fumble. Thank God that Osiris Torrance was there to fall on it. On the next play, again, scramble drill. Josh finds Dawson Knox coming back to him, catches it just before he comes back out of the end zone. I was worried initially in real time if he secured the catch before he came back out of the end zone, because he was running back towards Josh from the back of the end zone back into the field to play. But he didn't. He scored, got it there, and ended what is a fantastic drive. I think you called it well, the best offensive drive, most balanced one of the game here. 10 plays, 80 yards, touchdown. The Bills take a 20-10 lead, and that is our West Herr drive of the game. Make sure you check out our friends over at West Herr, largest automotive dealer in New York State. Fantastic work with one of the largest employers in New York State and in Western New York. Awesome people. Shout out to Bradley and the whole team over there. They're great to work with, and we appreciate them very much.
Yeah, man. And this is the part of the game where I really thought it was about to be just like wide open blowout. Like, we're going to double dip here. I know Eric hates the double dip, but it's like, this is the situation where if you go up 20-10 and then you come out and you even go up 23-10 or 27-10, like, that's wrap.
The whole point of it is that the Jets, the last time they were on the field, it was 13-10. And that you have the possibility that the next time they touch the ball, it would be 27-13 or 27-10. And all of a sudden they don't have a chance. Yeah. Yes, it's just they don't have a chance. And all of a sudden it's, this is now a 3-possession game by the time they get back into the game.
Having to drop back and pass a lot to do it.
The reason that we're talking in the past tense and about hypothetical scenarios is they almost did like I don't understand why end of game stuff is so stupid for us and why we can't execute consistently, but it's a thing. So I'm not going to put this on the coaches because the players have to execute, but I understand the frustration in, well, how many times do you need to tell them how to execute in these moments? The Jets had 21 seconds getting the ball at their own 30 to go 70 yards and had 21 seconds and 1 timeout. They run the first one to Ty Conklin for 4 yards. He gets out of bounds. There's 14 seconds at their own 34. They then get a decent chunk of yardage. They get 14 yards to Garrett Wilson on a nice play.
Nice play by Wilson.
Yeah, good play. Is able to go, and he takes a short play and gets some extra yards. They take their timeout. There's 8 seconds left. Mm-hmm. And then, they showed it. Aaron Rodgers does throw a really pretty arcing deep ball, and he's had 3 other Hail Marys, 2 of them in the end of halves that have gone just like this. And they throw it up there, and the picture that kills me is you see Taron Johnson and Christian Benford and DeMar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp surrounding Allen Lazard, and all of them with their hands up, ready to try to catch the ball. No one ready to volleyball spike it down which in this scenario, the time's expiring. There's no an interception and a spiked ball are the exact same for the team. It's just greedy in the moment that they're thinking about getting an interception for themselves and not being situationally aware in the moment, regardless of how many times I truly believe the coaches are drilling into them and how they practice it after the Hail Murray and the other situations we've seen, but they don't do it. And Alan Lazard, who is a big, powerful athlete, and producer Chris, was talking about it in our staff chat and before the show. He did shove off, he did push Taron Johnson, but they're not going to call those things in those scenarios. There's way more defensive pass interference than there is offensive. We let him catch the ball, and it just kind of deflates what should have been a really powerful, chunk of momentum to be here, and all of a sudden it's, wait, is it 20-17? How the hell is it 20-17? What is going on?
Yeah, it sucks. I don't know. This one's a tough one to answer, right? I think my reaction that I got from my little world of Twitter is where I see Bills fans the most was it's all the coach's fault. I definitely disagree with that. I've been called a McDermott homer in a stand, so I'm sure that's going to continue to stick with me in this argument here. But it seemed to me that the players were actually in a position to execute the play. They and I do think McDermott was right, and I think he's learned some things from these situations. Like, people are saying you don't have to guard the sideline in this instance, and that Aaron Rodgers is going to throw it. And like, yes, that's true. You have to guard for the Hail Mary, but you have to guard the sidelines. Like, 8 seconds is still enough time in that field position.
If it's unguarded and we give them a 10-yard pass and they all of a sudden get to kick a field goal because we weren't guarding the sideline, I guarantee the exact same people who were saying that would, oh my God, I can't believe they didn't guard the sideline.
It's tough.
Get out of here.
We played the result, and the result was really execution based, in my opinion. You had 4 guys, none of them made the play.
The point of the coverage is to set up a play call where 2 guys rush and you have 4 guys covering one, because that should be in the defense's favor.
Too often and here's a thing that really frustrates me with this whole conversation it was all like, oh, it's McDermott, and we only want to pile and associate the negative things that happen with the staff to McDermott. But if the play is called perfectly, it's Babbage, right? Like, or if something's called perfectly, Babbage gets the credit. Babbage doesn't get the credit when also the play goes poorly. Like, he's in on that call to rush to, and the Bills have done it this year, and it was successful, and nobody said a word about them rushing to. It's just because of the moment. And I'll say, I had a bunch of people in my mentions be like, they need to bring pressure and blitz. They did that against Denver, I think, at the end of one of the halves, and the Bills got smoked, and we got dragged for blitzing in the wrong spot. It's
often, just playing the results,
where it's often results based, and the results sucked. Nobody's coming out here to argue that the results were
the same thing. Last week at the end of the game, if they complete one of those passes at the beginning, like one of the 40-yard shots downfield, and we end up getting a chance for a field goal at the end of regulation, not even going to overtime, everyone's like, oh my God, what gutsy play calls. I can't believe they didn't just run 3 handoffs and run the clock out. Way to go. Way to play aggressive. Because people play the results. That's all we do. We play the results.
Yes. There's plenty, I think, to point the finger at McDermott in this game. I think the sloppy play, can point back that way, and not being prepared to really put this team away the way you probably should have.
We wasted an early second half timeout. I hate those.
Yeah. There wasn't great. McDermott got some blame in this, but that wasn't it. And I felt like people were just quick to just like, this guy's got to go. It's all his fault. Like, he can't go out and bat the ball down. That's illegal. That is one the refs will definitely properly call a flag on.
Further dampening our excitement on the double dipness of this game is we got the ball in the second half. We opened up with the very first play of the second half being a really nice deep shot to Curtis Samuel that actually probably could have been a touchdown, but still got 38 yards. Then another pass to Ray Davis for 5, a Davis run for 5. We have some really nice momentum. And here, this one really kind of deflated everything that was going on. We get to 1st and 10 at the 29, and we get an offensive pass interference on Dawson Knox. It now gets us behind the sticks. We're at 1st and 20. Josh tries to scramble for 5, and then we're not ready to line up. So now all of a sudden, we waste a timeout. Honest to God, in the second half, the difference between 2nd and 15 to 2nd and 20, I don't know is worth it to me of wasting a second half timeout. Like, we're really lucky that didn't come back to bite us. In that scenario, I would almost rather eat that and just take the delay of game, because you're already in a negative circumstance at 2nd and 15, which we didn't convert. So we wasted the timeout for nothing because we didn't end up getting the first down anyways. We take a deep shot to Coleman, which he almost gets at. Some people tried to call that a drop. DJ Reed had his arm in the middle of that and broke it up. Great play by DJ Reed.
Yep.
Then we just get a couple extra yards to try to make it a more makeable field goal range. And of course,
it's not.
Tyler Bass misses again. Not as egregious as me golfing duck hook that his extra point was. This one he overcompensated and tried to push it off right. And he was from the left hash, tried to overcompensate, pushed it too far, off right, missed, wide right, 47-yard field goal, and we give the ball right back to them.
Yeah, this one is there's a bit of optics in this drive that don't sit well, right? Like I do agree that wasting the timeout a half that are this early, not great. It sort of kept you in range to get a little bit more yards for field goal range, but you don't have the confidence in your kicker to trot out the 47, but you do it anyway, and then this win. But I think this one, I was really frustrated with the kick. I think later in hindsight in the game that maybe I had to give on this kick, not the extra point, but on this kick, Tyler Bass maybe deserved a little more grace for the conditions that they were kicking.
Sure, I don't know. Zerline's a good kicker, and he missed 2 as well. They're talking about swirling the winds, where it was a tough spot to kick in. The extra point was 100% on him. That misses in every stadium in the world.
Correct.
The 47-yarder he pushed right is very wind related, and we saw that with both of Zerline's misses.
Yeah, I was super frustrated in the moment though, because it's like we confidently trot this guy out there to just miss consistently. But yeah, that the wasted timeout would feel a lot better if you convert the field goal there and get some points on the board. But the fact that you then also failed beyond that, it adds a little bit more insult to injury there.
Yeah, we didn't get the first down, so 2nd and 15 versus 2nd and 20 didn't actually matter. No. And then we didn't get close enough where, yes, 52 is harder than 47. So in the grand scheme of things, I guess I'll take
maybe.
I don't even know if I would.
I don't know where his range is.
I don't know if I would trade a second half timeout for 52 versus a 47, because if you make the 47, you probably make the 52. But either way, they didn't, and they didn't do either of those things. So we give the ball back to the Jets. They start with the ball at the 37. I was so frustrated in this game that I spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to figure out why the broadcast didn't show the kickoff and how the Jets just started at the 37. And I was like, "What? Why do they have the ball at the 37? And there's just no one's talking about this. Why?" And it's because my brain couldn't grasp that, no, we just missed another field goal, and that's why they get the ball. At the third, I was so frustrated. There were so many penalties going on during this stretch. The Jets end up putting together a 10-play, 60-yard field goal drive. But the important part is that field goal at the end, which came with another one where, it was an incompletion to Garrett Wilson. And at the end of this drive, like that early one to Breece Hall, really kind of gifted it to us. They drove all the way down the field. The 42-yard run by Hall, and we mentioned earlier Taylor Rapp, that genuinely is a 4-point tackle. Yeah. Him being able to use the sideline, hold him there, get him at the 3-yard line. The first play, Dwayne Smoot and Greg Rousseau smush Breece Hall for no gain. We then get, on third down,
Rasul make big stuff on that.
Yes.
Second down.
Right there. The earlier one. And as they're down there in the red zone, we then get where, Wilson isn't able to make the catch.
Yeah.
And we get it to where it's 4th and goal and they have to kick.
Yeah.
And that was a spot where they easily could have gone up and been able to take the lead there, and holding that to a tie felt like a win.
Yeah, although it didn't. Yes, it did feel like a win. I'm not. I did the way that it played out. Taylor Rapp definitely saved those points. The refs gifted the Jets this drive though, because it should have been a 3-and-out. That AJ got the sack on the 3rd and 8, and this is where you get the roughing plus 15, and it puts the ball basically at midfield instead of them punting back to us with a huge sack on a second 3rd down where AJ ends the drive. You got a bunch of momentum. like those are tough for defenses. I think momentum's real. You think you're getting off the field on a 3 and out and it goes the other way and other team gets a few plays and builds momentum back and they get a 42-yarder on you. There is a deflating element to it. So making the stands great and being able to stand in the goal line's fantastic. But man, this is probably to me, even outside of the Hail Mary, the biggest, like, where would have this game direction gone if you got the 3rd and 8 sack and just stuffed that drive the way it should have been?
Honestly, maybe even the fact they were able to make that stand more impressive with the fact that they thought they were off the field and literally some of them had to come back on the field. Some guys had already left the field by the time that they realized that Rodgers got called for a completely egregious roughing the passer penalty, because AJ Epinesa, they showed it like he was trying to rake at the ball with one hand and sacking him with the other. Like it was a 100% football play. There is no, and then they expect based on the second act that he was, and I thought they were like, I don't know, they thought instead of raking at the ball, they thought he was like trying to give him the business and give him an extra shot in the ribs. I don't know.
Both AJ Epinesa and Spencer Brown got flagged tonight for footballing too hard.
Yes. So on the next drive, the Bills start out with the Mac Hollins pre-snap penalty. That was great. Davis gets a chunk of that back for 6. We get 3 of it back to Kincaid. And now it looks like we're going to have a nice free shot play because Allen throws it to Hollins down the field. DJ Reed fell on the play, and as he got back up, he 100%
slammed right into it.
Interfered with how he didn't mean to, so which is what he was frustrated with.
Hollins' ability,
but he 100%
on the ball.
Like got in the way of not letting. And I think Hollins was going to come back and get the ball. Like he was right there. This wasn't. There were a couple debatable ones on was it catchable or not.
Right.
This one he was coming right back and going to be able to get the ball, and it gets offset by one of the most. This is just as bad as the AJ Epinesa. This is a play that every offensive line coach would show in the film room of how to finish a play. Yeah. He didn't do the belly flop that I guess sometimes linemen get a little excited with. Yeah, he wasn't like dragging himself across the player. He didn't give him any extra business after the whistle. He just finished a block with a pancake. Like there was nothing out of the ordinary, and he gets called for the unnecessary roughness. That brings it back on 3rd and 6.
And this is probably Allen's worst throw of the day. The overthrow there. Good
call. He misses Kincaid here. We end up at 4th and 6, and obviously have to punt. And Martin was okay in this game. He wasn't. He had a really nice one earlier. This was actually one of his less good ones. This one ended up not being that good. Gibson had to come up to fair catch it at the 26. It was only a 40-yard net punt, not anything special. Fortunately, the Jets now begin their stretch of weirdness here. Now we get a couple more. Taron Johnson gets called for a weird low cut block thing that I don't know that
I didn't see the highlight on that one, so
I mean he
tough.
did.
That's a 10-yard run plus 15-yard flag.
Yeah, he did kind of go low, but I don't know. Like he's a little guy going against an offensive lineman. Like I don't know. I guess it was probably called correctly. Out of all the other flags, that one was probably correct. It was just frustrating.
Tough play. It's an explosive right there.
Yes, correct. And it turned into a 25-yard play. I will
after
say
a 23-yarder by Wilson. That's like 50 yards in 2 plays. Ugh.
Yeah. And if the Jets are going to be frustrated, or Jets fans, the touchdown Braylon Allen scored, Tyron Smith did technically hold, I think it was Dwayne Smoot on the play, but it was like materially after Braylon Allen was gone and into the end zone. I would be furious. I would be livid if they took that touchdown off the board for us that like just didn't have anything to do with the play. Like that's not. No one wants you to throw that flag. It did not impact the play. Like Dwayne Smoot was not going to make the tackle. Braylon Allen was already well by him. He was not making that play, and you took a touchdown off the board in a tied 20-20 game, and then to make matters worse, you now take that back. So now instead of 3rd and 2 at the 4, it's 3rd and 12 at the 14. You get an incompletion here. This is the one where Taylor Rapp lights up Garrett Wilson. Rodgers puts it right in there. Garrett Wilson just gets crunched in the guts by Taylor Rapp, the heat-seeking missile that he is. And then Greg Zuerlein doinks it off of the upright. So now not only do you get a touchdown called back, but instead of taking the lead 23-20, you doink it and give it back to the Bills. Just a really, really, deflating series of events for the Jets.
Yeah, no, tough stretch for them. This is just ugly football here for a bit of a stretch here. Obviously, Bills get it back here. There's something when we get to the Jets drive. There is one kind of mirroring situation that I want to point out that's frustrating about Brady here coming up.
So the Bills now, it says, if you look at the summary, it says it's 3 plays for -5 yards. But if you look at the list, there's 8 different plays that were ran because there were so many penalties on this drive. We had first a penalty on Spencer Brown on the first play for a false start. Then we ran a play, but the Bills had illegal formation. So then we go again. Then we get a Josh Allen incompletion. Then a completion to Khalil Shakir. Then somewhere during the end of the third quarter to the fourth quarter, while the lights were off, Deion Dawkins apparently did something that deserved a penalty. We never saw it. They never showed it of what he did. But I trust them. Deion does genuinely hate the Jets. I'm sure he did do something that probably deserved the flag. But we didn't see it. I would have liked to have seen that. Then we get a 6-yard completion to Kincaid, which was just kind of trying to get a couple more yards to set it up for a punt. And here, Sam Martin did uncork a really nice punt, 57-yarder, where they had us backed up. They easily, if this is one where you get up a bad punt, they could get the ball at like midfield or something like that. He uncorks a 57-yarder back to their 26. They get an 8-yard return, but they get the ball to 34 instead. And now again, go ahead. You can point out the play you were.
The only thing is, they get the ball here, and Jets also end up because of penalties in a 1st and 20 situation. The Bills had a 1st and 20, and the Jets did. And what felt frustrating was the Bills overcoming the 1st and 20 felt like they couldn't, and then the Jets were able to. And it wasn't that they necessarily ran anything better; they just ran cleaner. In those situations, they didn't hurt themselves, and they ended up getting another explosive in this scenario on a 3rd and 11. This is just, if there is like something that's underlyingly very frustrating to me about the Bills defense and Sean McDermott or Babich or whoever it is, and this has been going on for years, is these like 3rd and long situations where they don't typically give up big plays, but then they get themselves into a 3rd and long and then do give up a big play when you're like the one play you're not supposed to give up a big play. They do. But it allowed the Jets to continue on a drive, and they obviously don't score. This is another doink situation for them, how it ends the drive. But this is one of those ones where overcoming the 1st and 20 did put them in position to score, and the Bills couldn't do that. They couldn't overcome the penalties and put themselves in a position to score. While they flipped the field, it ultimately doesn't do much because the Jets are able to go down and get into scoring range. And just they also lacked execution tonight, and so they didn't capitalize on it. So it was a few times tonight. We've already talked about first downs that weren't converted, missed field goals that weren't converted, where the Jets' lack of execution was what stalled the Jets, not the Bills stalling out the Jets, which is a little concerning on the defensive side.
So credit here. I want to share this. Actually, one of the guys in the Cover One, Josh in the Cover One Pass Discord channel, brought this up. Our guy Nate Tice, who's been on Disguise Coverage a couple times, great follow on Twitter, texted someone around the NFL, his dad Mike Tice, and said that they did change that rule that when he was in the league, you can't spear a guy while they're on the ground. So that's what they called, is when he went to finish it, he hit him with the helmet going down at him. That was what the call was on the unnecessary roughness, and that it wasn't him finishing the block with his hands in his chest. It was because he led with his helmet to hit him as he was already on the ground. So at least there was an explanation to it. I'll go back and look at it again to be able to see it in real time to
I don't believe you.
Get a better feel for it.
I don't believe it.
Yeah. So we'll see where that one goes.
Maybe his helmet did hit it. I don't think he like drove his helmet into the ground.
Yeah.
There was accidental helmet contact, perhaps, but throw that rule out if that's the rule.
Yeah, if that's the rule, that's dumb.
Yeah.
So again, as Aaron pointed out here, although they did overcome it, and that was one of the plays where you saw that ridiculous like pocket catch where it slid past Terrell Bernard's hip into Alan Lazard, and like Hamlin was coming in, looked like he could have made a play on it, but then like I don't know if he was worried he was going to hit Bernard or thought he couldn't get in front of it to make the play, so he kind of holds up,
or maybe thought it was going to hit Bernard's butt because that's
what
it could have done.
It's hard to know in real time what was what anyone's doing. So then he kind of holds up and then goes around and just makes the tackle. But ultimately, Alan Lazard makes a 25-yard catch on when they were stuck back at 2nd and 18. He made the catch on 3rd and 11. They get down there, but again, for the second time, Greg Zuerlein doinks it again off of the upright. So the Bills get the ball here, and I debated on making this my drive of the game because they had a chance to come in and now completely put this away. The Bills get the ball. There's 9 minutes and 44 seconds left. That's realistically just too long to not give the ball back. But what you want to do is go down, ideally score a touchdown, but go down and be able to take as much time off the clock as possible, and then score. The Bills run 11 plays, 64 yards, 6 minutes off the clock, and do score, but not in the ideal way. So first, it opens up with the Ray Davis 10-yard run. We then get the jumbo set where Josh audibles into the little quick slant to Coleman, where you have cover 0, and if Coleman breaks one tackle, he can take it to the house from there. Ends up getting a 10-yard play, which is still nice, but I like the risk in that spot. Then another one where Josh gets it to Kincaid, his second one where he had some really tough running after the catch and was able to make more out of it. Davis goes for 3, and at this point it feels like, hey, we're letting some clock run here. We're getting chunk plays. We're getting first downs. Josh has another one to Coleman where then he picks up 11 yards. We got a first down now. We're sitting there at like 5:56 at the Jets 18. This is the one where it does stink because I want them to run the ball on the spot. We want to run more clock. We have the jumbo set in, and they 100% see it coming, and they stack the box, and they hit Ashton Davis. I think they pointed out on the broadcast, David Edwards didn't pick up the fact that he was run blitzing and goes for the double team, and that duo block had been working all day, so I'm not upset. But he needed to be able to pick that up in that spot and to realize it was there. And then you're talking about Connor McGovern having to single block Quinn Williams, which isn't great either. But it gets us now, we're kind of behind the sticks. We get to 2nd and 11, and this is the one where the Jets have right to be frustrated because they get called for roughing the passer, which was Josh 100% selling it. Javon Kinlaw did not throw him down as hard as it looked. Josh flung himself into the ground to sell the hit. He gets the call. It sets up 1st and goal at the 9. This one we get 2 yards, and then Josh did what I wanted. In the moment, I was like, oh my God, they only have like 4 guys in the box. They have like 3 down linemen and 1 linebacker. Everybody's all spread out. I hope Josh does quarterback draw here. And I don't think it was like called quarterback draw, but he saw it too. And Quinn Williams is a really good player. He comes off it and comes and gets Josh. I don't know if Josh would have scored, but he for sure would have been down very, very close where he probably could have run the quarterback sneak and pushed it in. Instead, Quinnen gets him at the ankles, tackles him. He technically gets a sack here, but it's for no yards. Puts us where we're now 3rd and 7, and this is the play we talked about earlier. On 3rd and 7, in the biggest moment in the game where we have to score, and they were talking about it like, hey, this is going to decide the game. Do you get a score? Do you hold them to a field goal? We try to go on a slant to Matt Collins, and I don't know for sure if that was the first read, but it looked like pretty early in the progression, and for that reason, I want that to be Amari Cooper or Romeo Doubs or someone else besides Matt Collins.
Yeah, it's tough because Mac actually wins and he gave up a little bit of leverage, but he had leverage. Like, I think that's why the ball went to Mac, is the way the offense is designed. Like, Mac won, and he won first, and that throw was there, and Josh Allen can make that throw. Not every quarterback can. And he gave him a chance to make the play, just didn't. So yeah, having somebody better, more reliable in that type of situation to make the play, it's what I thought Samuel was supposed to be going into this year, which is probably the most depressing thing about the lack of production from Samuel, because I think that's where I saw him in this role. If it wasn't Shakir, who obviously the Bills didn't feel he was healthy enough to prioritize him in those types of situations in a game like tonight. And so you sort of end up deferring to Mac Hollins being in that role. And that's not great. He didn't come down with it. He didn't get the DPI like he'd been getting earlier in the night. And it just makes it, you're just far enough away where going for it in this situation is not on the table. Like, if Josh had broke that Quinn and Williams and you were on the line, and that's like, go for it even on fourth down territory to me, but you're too far away here and you have to settle for a field goal. And I don't feel good, man. Like, even from here, the Bass confidence meter is low, like out of gas. And it's every single kick just feels no to me. It feels like it almost forces me into go for it territory, even from back there.
Yeah, and this is a spot I know Chris had asked, was this a pass breakup? And they talked about it there, where maybe if Hollins kind of takes it shallower, where he's running away from the defender, he has a little more space, he keeps it vertical up towards the upright.
I don't think anyone touched the ball, though.
I don't think so. I'd have to go back and watch again. But either way, it was a play where Hollins didn't create enough separation to make it easier for him to be able to make the catch. And this is where a savvier receiver would be able to do that. I like Mac Hollins being on this football team. I like him as a special teamer. I like him as your fifth receiver. I don't like him as a starter playing as many snaps as he is and getting as many targets as he is. We can upgrade that spot for sure. I honestly hope we do. I hope we find a way to do it.
Yeah, ESPN game play by play does not mark broken up pass, just incomplete to Hollins.
Correct. In the initial grading, it wasn't. Yeah. Then we get, this is the one where the announcers were joking that they were conferring, and rightfully they were waiting for New York to tell them what the right call was, because neither of the officials knew who jumped off sides first or whether the offense moved or it was after the defense did. It was correctly called that Javon Kinlaw moved into the neutral zone, and then Osiris Torrance reached out and touched him, which was good on him. That's how you're supposed to do it. And like you said, that moved it 3 yards or 5 yards, or actually 3.5 yards closer. And now instead of a 26-ish yard field goal, it's a 22-yard field goal. But thankfully, Tyler Bass makes it, and it ends up being, a non-factor. He makes it. He makes technically a game-winning field goal.
Game-winning that we've been waiting for from the team.
Yeah. This is
the Bill Nye blow the thing and throw confetti up, like, yay, we got one.
Now the defense has to make a play, because there's 3 minutes and 43 seconds left. We already dealt with a Hail Mary earlier, and now the Jets have the ball, only down 3. Plenty of opportunity to be able to come back here. We opened it up right on the first play, where I really did think we were going to get it back on the first play. Terrell Bernard comes in here, gets a sack, forces a fumble, and it was a fumble. I don't care what this says. It was the definition of the tuck rule. He was not attempting to pass that ball. He was trying everything he had to maintain possession of that and to pull it back in. It's exactly what the tuck rule was. And they incorrectly reversed the play on the field. It was called a fumble, and they reversed it incorrectly and called it an incomplete pass. Give them another shot at it. Now Conklin gets 6 yards. Now we get this one. There were so many other horrible calls. I didn't really understand how Benford got called for interference on this play by Wilson.
He pulled his arm. He pulled his back arm down. Okay. He had a full. I think what McDermott was arguing, what I would have argued, is
uncatchable.
I think it was uncatchable ball. But if the ball was in play and the refs decided that the ball was catchable, which would have been Wilson's good, but it would have been a pretty catch of the year.
Pretty amazing.
But yeah, Benford grabbed him down. But yeah, that was ticky tacky.
And it wasn't even the top 5 of most egregious penalty calls for this game, so I won't even.
And it offset
because
it was such a sloppy game and everywhere.
So then the next play, we get another incompletion, but now Morgan Moses gets called for holding, while Rasul Douglas gets called for holding. Those two were both absolutely penalties, rightfully offset. That was correct. They then try to run Breece Hall. Rasul Douglas comes up. This is the one where they point out where it looks like Tyron Smith is about to just road grade Rasul Douglas, and he like okey dokes him, makes Tyron Smith kind of stumble and fall, which is funny, and then hits Breece Hall in the backfield on a play where it wasn't exactly the same as the 42-yard run that he had earlier, but he had a lane and was going to have a head of steam, and like he can get by guys pretty quick in those spots, and instead it's a 2-yard gain. It's now 2nd and 8 at the 48. Here Rodgers goes back to Breece Hall, and we get another one with another holding penalty. They move Allen back more. Now he tries to hit Rucker, and Rucker was open. Here, this would have been a first down, is right at the first down marker. Taylor Rapp comes and lights him up. We get it to 3rd and 16.
And lights himself up in the process. Every human in contact just exploded.
He's just a heat-seeking missile. It doesn't matter. Friendly fire.
There's zero concern for
self-fire or other players. Tonight he did way more damage to other players on the other team, so I'll give him tonight as a pass. But that dude,
funny. It's not funny.
Just reckless abandon.
He's so reckless that he wears the cover,
guardian cap.
Guardian caps. Cap. Also, the neck thing of like to also help prevent concussions.
Yeah, that one compresses blood flow.
He's doing everything to. No, I'm not going to stop throwing my head into fire. Yeah. I'm just going to put all the things to help me throw.
Never stopping. Like she's just incapable.
It's wild.
And now on the final play, this one was a combination of things because there was just enough pressure in the pocket where Allen or Rodgers couldn't really step into it extra. Mike Williams is very open. He's open in like the honey hole of one of our, like, it's a disguise coverage where we have Hamlin up early and he's trying to drop back, and there's Taron Johnson is up in the normal slot, but he's actually going to play the back half. So you have like Benford's dropping back and coming back up for his short zone, and that honey hole where it's behind the corner but to the sideline before the safety can get there. Mike Williams is open, and if Aaron can get the ball on him faster, this is a big chunk play, and he floats it up there just enough where Williams has to like come back, and he loses his footing and starts to fall, and then tries to get back up to get back at the ball. Taron Johnson dives like over top of him, and in real time on the original play, I was like, oh, that's gonna end up being like a broken up play. He must have just knocked it into the ground, but it's cool. It's gonna be 4th and 16. We're still in good position, and they show the replay, and he dives over top of Williams first, like kind of co-catches the ball with like shared possession, but he takes it as he goes. Does like when I was in kids wrestling, we would do it where you have to like put your head down and like spin around the mat with like balancing yourself on your neck, where he like balances and like pivots around as he's holding the ball, but holds it the entire time and comes away with one of the most, like, the combination of how ridiculously physically impressive it was, like right there with like the Micah Hyde wildcard interception where like, holy crap, I can't believe he got there in time to do that. But you add in like how big the moment was in a game sealing moment, and then how physically impressive it is. It's one of the most impressive interceptions I can remember in that kind of combination. And he somehow makes the play clean. The ball never hits the ground. He maintains possession the entire time and intercepts Aaron Rodgers to seal this game and to seal the win. And thankfully, seal my sanity still as part of myself.
I never doubted Taron on that, but real time or not. I know that dude's a dog. Come on. That's my guy. No, it's a great play on the ball. He's heads up.
Amazing.
He's always around the ball. He had a couple tough plays tonight too, just like a lot of, I think, the defensive backs and the defense did. And it was good to see. He always bounced back throughout the game on any time he seemed to have a tough play. He always came back and made a play and made the final play needed. I said it. You had to create a stop. You had all these situations where the defense was doing the bend but don't break. But like I said earlier, a lot of it was the Jets doing the breaking. It wasn't the Bills necessarily. It was Jets making mistakes, which is some of that bend but don't break, right? You want teams to have to go down, put together 12 play drives, which is hard to do. But the Jets were playing into that, and it wasn't necessarily the Bills always making plays to stop these drives. And when they did make plays to stop drives, the refs took those plays away from the Bills. So for them to just go out and physically take it with a turnover in that situation, big time stuff, and capitalizing on an absolute mistake. I think the air might have gotten that ball a little bit from Rodgers a little bit too. We talked about the kicking game.
The wind probably didn't hurt it.
It looked like Chris brought that up in the chat. Like it just kind of looked a bit of a duck. And Rodgers, it wasn't like, I know Rodgers has had some issues early in the year, but he was throwing the ball like classic Aaron Rodgers all over the field for the most part. I don't think he had issues throwing it. And so I wonder if the mix of pressure, not getting off the right footing, and then a little bit of wind just dropped that ball just enough for Taryn to come in and make a play. And he did. You can't take anything away. It wasn't a clean play by the Jets, but you can't take anything away from that interception.
Whew. Yeah, it's amazing. The Bills then do kind of seal it here because it wasn't over. At that point, the Jets still had their timeouts. So they get 5 yards for Ray Davis.
Yeah.
First timeout, another yard, second timeout. So now it's 3rd and 4.
And then Josh got him.
Josh audibles, gets everything set up, 100% knows what's coming, knows they have Clemens as the edge, defender, and that he can beat him. Does the play action to Davis, wheels back around and straight up just beats him to the spot, gains 6 yards on 3rd and 4, slides and immediately celebrates, knows that he just sealed the game. We then kneel it out the rest of the way and end up, taking home what is rightfully a deserved W. The Bills won this game. The Bills were the better team today, but they found a way to be able to take this home in an ugly, weird game that even though we were the better team on the day, we have found the way to lose these games. Like, we have found a way to lose these kind of games in the past, multiple different ways, and they didn't. They were able to figure it out. They were able to do those things. And I won't lie, there was a little extra bonus that it was Clemens that he was able to beat, because that's the guy who Dion always talks trash with and got into it multiple times with, and probably got into it during the darkness that we weren't allowed to see.
100%. Yeah. That was my assumption too. This is a great win in the sense of it was an ugly game. You had to battle the officials. Both teams had to battle through the officials. You had to battle some sloppy play. You had to overcome some of your own sloppy play, and you did find a way. They've struggled at MetLife. They've struggled not only with sloppy play and execution issues, but to close out victories in these situations. So for them to walk out of MetLife, no matter how you get it, is a huge one. And then they showed some statistics, and actually Troy Aikman proved that he's not a math guy with this, but they showed the outcomes of these games and how it impacted playoff odds and percentages. And the Bills winning this game gave them an 85% chance to win the division, make the playoffs. If they lost this game, I think they dipped to like 47% chance or something.
No, they were 53, Jets 47. They still had the higher percentage either way.
Yes, but it wasn't.
I remember that sticking out to me, but it was way less good. Less good.
And Troy Aikman was like, percentages this time of year? What are you like? Doesn't understand how the math actually works with creating those percentages. But this was a big one. No matter how you got it, you found a way to get it. And this was after that terrible 2-game losing streak. The only thing I cared about wasn't how you came out and beat the Jets, was getting a win against the Jets, not losing 3 in a row, and giving yourself that little bit of arm's length in this division. And if this is the slump that the Bills go through annually, Greg, that we go through and talk through, I think they're in that a little bit earlier than we'd like this year. If this is the slump and you're coming out of it 4-2 and you're a game and a half up, right? They're a game and a half up on the Jets right now out of this. That's a great place to be in, knowing that you haven't played your best football yet. Maybe you already did against the Jaguars, but you haven't put together playing your best football, and guys are still coming back. Bernard's not fully healthy yet. Taron Johnson's just coming back. Shakir's not healthy. You will get Von Miller back for
Ed Oliver back.
Ed
Matt
Oliver
Milano back.
Yes, you're going to get some relief here. You'll be able to play your best football later, but stacking those wins now, no matter how they come and how ugly it is and frustrating it feels, you can't understate the importance of sneaking that win out tonight.
100%. And again, it's actually a 2-game lead on the Jets, a game and a half lead on the Dolphins with wins in Miami and in New York already in hand. So we play them again, but we play them at home. Just really, really good position. And again, we still have a first place schedule. It's never easy, but the next 4 games, being home Titans, at Seattle, home Dolphins, at Colts, is not a terrible spot to go through here before it gets tough again.
Pollard and Kenneth Walker. All right, I gotta go to bed.
Yeah, I don't have time for that right now. I don't have time for that right now. So again, this is a tough spot to be in, but we got it done. We're able to take it home. Any final thoughts for the people before we close it out?
Man, 1 week at a time. This team definitely finds ways to torture us in the process, but they got the dub. Years probably taken off our life to get it, but it still always feels good. And we're gonna get a Victory Tuesday tomorrow, so that's cool.
That's right. I like Victory Tuesday. I support it fully. We're going to be back here quickly with you, having a new guest on to help us with the Titans. We'll be right back on tomorrow night, switching spots with this guy's coverage to be able to get ready. We'll be back here previewing Titans-Bills coming up for this weekend. But enjoy it here. It's been a late night. For everybody that's still here, there's still 1,000 of you in here. Press that like button on the way out. It really helps us out. Press that like button if you enjoyed being here with us tonight. It goes a long ways. If you want to be part of our community, come and help us out. Join the One Pass group. You can come be in Discord. Discord's crazy during games. It's so crazy for everybody. They're reacting to everything, talking with everybody. You get all the latest updates and information this year. One of the tweets was just shared. Josh Allen is just the 5th player in NFL history to have 10 total touchdowns and 0 interceptions through 6 games. He still doesn't have interceptions, so pretty impressive. Hopefully we see some more fun things going on here, but the Bills got a W. They have a strong, commanding lead in the division, and now get to take on the rest of the schedule as we go forward.
Love it. All right, guys. I gotta go to bed.
On behalf of fantastic producer Chris Kepner and my co-host and partner in crime, Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Tompsett. You've been listening to the Cover One Buffalo podcast, and we are out.